I really would love to have some photos of me on your screen, because I have no idea how I look at the moment, how your room looks anyway. I would love to see some photos of that. Maybe you can quickly give me some images on Facebook or something. Yeah. So this is another word, right? This is the city I'm living in.
Paderborn. Yeah.
Paderborn, right? Paderborn is, well, some Germans say it's the most boring place in Germany. You know, it's still a quite large city. We have 150,000 people living there, but it's not quite large in comparison with Cairo. But it's a very, very conservative, Catholic, calm, and quite, I think, a nice city, because even if it's very conservative, it has very, it's just a very calm place to work. You don't have too many distractions. I like that pretty much. And yeah, these are the most most known buildings in Paderborn: the Dome and the so-called Rathaus, which is kind of something like the where people go and just when they want to become Paderborn inhabitants, they have to go there. So yeah, so this is pretty much where I grew up and where I live now again, after traveling and, well, studying abroad and studying in Portugal and in Münster, which is also a very nice city in Germany. So one more shot from the city of Paderborn. Well, it's in comparison, if you've maybe ever been in Berlin or something, this is a completely different kind of city, right? Because this is it has been bombed in the war completely. Everything has been destroyed. Really, it was really horrible. I didn't live in that time, but there are many photos. The whole city was destroyed, and yeah. But it's it's a quite wealthy city, right? So anyway, it's a really good city to live in, and that's me when I was 6 years old. That was the day when I came to school, and I really like this photo because I really like to see the progress that I did. So yeah, a few more images. This is me when I just cycled to Paris in 2003. I just love to make bike trips, and that's what I do when I have time. So I put my tent onto my bike and just I just travel with the bike. So, and I went from Cologne to Paris in 2003. That was one of the most wonderful journeys I've made. And in my opinion, cycling is something like a metaphor for the ideal way of traveling and the ideal way of experiencing the world. Because I like to go a little bit slower sometimes and just look to the left and the right to see the world how it really is. Yeah, that's what me 1 year later. I was 19, now I'm 34. I was working as a what is this word in English? I was working in a hospital, right? I made a professional training to become somebody who cares about people in a hospital. But very soon I just felt like this is not really the right job for me, because my father is also a graphic designer. I've also studied graphic design, more about that later. But that was a very important experience for me, because I learned that I'm somebody who has difficulties with working in environments where very strict rules have to be held. That's the worst English you've ever heard. But what I want to say is I'm not really somebody who is suitable for that job. But at the same time, because I was somebody who was very social, and who is very social and loves to meet people, loves to talk with people also about their problems. And that was also a very, very important experience in my life. So yeah, some images. So, but let's make a fast forward here and talk about the creative coding story, right? Because that started in 2013 when I was studying design at Münster School of Design. Which is a very modern and new school. It was built in 2010. Before it was in a very old building, but now it is a very business-oriented design school. And yeah, that was also a place where I was not really fitting that much in that time, because I was not really interested in business. I was more interested in art, in making electronic music, which is that thing that I did before I, well, committed myself to creative coding. Electronic music is something that I've always been doing in the last years, or in my whole life, from being 15 to 30 or something. And yeah, so we had this library, and in this library we had hundreds of books, and I loved to take all these books about art and design and nice visuals back home. And one day I just explored this book, Generative Design. So it is a very, very nice book, written and created by some Germans, and they just, it was released in 2010. Sorry. And well, that was a very, very inspiring book for me. So I thought it would be really nice to go into that topic once. But before, I was really busy making music, being creative with making electronic music. I was building a hardware setup where I was just collecting little machines to make sounds and loop things and stuff. And that was my life back then. I was not that interested in my design job after I graduated, because I was raising up in a family where my father was had an own graphic design company for 30 years, and I was pretty bored about graphic design, basically, because I knew how hard the market is. I knew how difficult it is for good designers to get paid well, or get paid anyway. So the market situation for graphic designers is quite rude, I think. And well, that's also something that really shaped the way I think today. And well, electronic music, experimenting with devices, experimenting with software, making music, that was something that I well, committed myself to for many, many years. And I played gigs and live stuff, and I just made concerts. And maybe you had heard of this guy, Patrick Hübner, who's one of my best friends. Surprise, he's also from Paderborn. That has a reason, because basically we both started with creative coding when, well, in that time, because I was making this electronic music, and Patrick and me, we just met at Paderborn. I didn't know him before. I met him, I think, in 2014. Yeah, and we were just thinking about, because he was a very talented programmer, but also a very professional designer. He made huge online shops and very commercial projects. He was very successful, but he was very bored of designing online shops. He was like, he felt like he wants to experience something new and something more exciting, something non-commercial that really can touch your soul, really do something cultural, right? So we were just thinking about what he could do, and then we came up with the idea that he could make the visuals for my electronic music. And that was something like the kickoff thought for the whole creative coding thing, because Patrick is a very talented programmer. He's a really nerd, a nerd person who programmed his whole life. And yeah, in that time, we just came up with the idea that he could make the visuals for my music. So I showed him this book, Generative Design, and he studied it. He was completely blasted away, because he was so into learning processing, making visuals for our concerts, right? And it was a really nice experience for him. And now I'm going to show you a little video how that stuff looks like. Again, you guys are still there, right? Because I cannot hear anything.
Yeah, we are with you.
You are with me. That's wonderful. Great. So I'm not really sure if it works to show you the video, but let's just try. So, yeah. So what you can see here, I'm just playing some electronic music live with some very simple, machines, electronic music machines and stuff. And we have got a projector there, which projected a processing sketch to the wall, and it was audio reactive. So that means it just reacts to the music in real time. And yeah, that was really interesting, right? Because I was really into electronic music pretty much, also in percussion and drums. And I didn't know any act who has something like this, something like a generative live show, right? So that was really something special. And just a short time later, we just formed the Inuvik collective. Inuvik was my artist name, and we just formed this three-person band. On the left, you see Stefan Schneider, who's a brilliant drummer, a very, very nice jazz drummer, living in Münster, and also a wonderful guy. I love this person. He's great. And in the middle is Patrick, and the right there's me. And this was something like our promo shoot. And yeah, from that time, it was really going quite crazy because we were getting very interesting gigs, very interesting concerts. We had the opportunities to play on festivals, and people loved the approach of that the band brings its own visuals. That was pretty common at that time. And yeah, so we had something like a unique selling point. That's what a business person would say, right? We had something that others don't have. We have this very special electronic music mixed with generative visuals, and that was really cool. But there was one problem, because in that time I was so interested in generative design and creative coding, because I saw how awesome things just created with processing, that I felt like I didn't want to go on with making music. I felt super bored of making music, and at the same time, I was super interested in the stuff that Patrick did. Of course, that was a catastrophe for the band, because both guys I told them that I want to leave my own band, right? So, and that I want to go on with creative coding. And of course, Patrick was super angry because he was working on this live show for years, right? So, but I felt like I've just made electronic music for such a long time, and also being on stage was never that much my thing. Well, not in, especially not in performing electronic music, because it's very hard to perform it, right? It's mostly you hit some buttons and stuff, but people cannot really see what you do, and there's some problems with that. And I felt that I want to switch over to creative coding. So yeah, one day Patrick accepted that, and we rented a wooden cabin in the woods of Witzenhausen, which is a very, very small place in Germany. And Lukas Schlafke, one of our friends, and Patrick and me, we three rented this cabin for 7 days, I think, and we just learned creative coding there. We had no internet connection.
Excuse me, you were the one who interested in
create things with processing.
Okay.
That was one of the most important times in my creative coding career. It's not really a career, but in the time when I was working with creative coding, because it was possible, by renting this cabin, it was possible to really focus on something, right? So we were really able to focus on coding, focus on creating things with processing without being nerfed by the internet, Instagram links on my mobile phone, and all these messages and stuff. So that was very inspiring. And by the way, you already mentioned the creative coding days. This is the very first creative coding days, and the idea of the creative coding days just came out of the thought that we want to have a yearly meetup where people meet in a very calm environment, in the best case without too many distractions, and meet there to just work on projects they love. So this is the initial idea of the creative coding days. So in the meantime, I just Patrick, Lucas, and me, we all built up our own artistic identities anyway. Patrick is very successful now. He's really successful with creative coding, much more than me in from a commercial perspective. I have to say that Patrick is brilliant. He's really very good in selling stuff. He's very good in programming. He's very good in design, and this combination is very unique. And he is somebody who always thinks very big. And so I have to say that Patrick is a very big inspiration for me, and I still learn a lot from him because, yeah, he's just professional, and he acts as a professional creative coder. And I think there are just a few guys out there who do that. And yeah, so he really earns all of his money with creative coding, and that's really cool. Yeah, so now I'm going to show you a very important theory that has to do with that music you've just heard a few moments ago. It is the well, the very basic concept of creative coding and generative design, which we discovered here in this wooden cabin. Well, there we started thinking about that, and this is the so-called input-output pattern, which is, well, it is the pattern that it is the heart of generative design, right? So let me quickly show you how it works. So as I told you that Patrick wrote a software for all electronic music, or for my electronic music, that converts the music into visuals. So it was an auto-reactive software made with processing, and it just converts the music into visuals. And I thought, what if we could take this pattern and change the parameters, right? So we've got two parameters here, an input and an output, right? So what if we say that we change these parameters into something completely different? Why can't we transform text instead of music, right? So text instead of music, and transform it into furniture instead of visuals. So, or, well, you know, that's a very interesting thought, because that's what generative design is all about. It's all about an input. You put data into an algorithm or a software, and this algorithm transforms the data into something different, well, furniture, or let's go through that. So here's a mind map, right? This is a mind map I just created. And as you can see, here's the input, and there's so many possibilities, right? So many different things you can put into a program. And on the right side, you see the output. And these are all the possibilities we can create with creative coding, with generative design. So again, here's the input. Let's think about it for just a little moment, right? So you don't see my mouse pointer. Damn it. Okay, but maybe you can see there is hardware, right? With hardware, I mean the Kinect camera, for example. We can use a Kinect camera or webcam or microphone or sensors to put it into this algorithm, into our sketch or our program or application. And not really talking just about processing. This is a very general technique that can be applied to anything. And we can transform that information to something new, right? Something like graphics or music, audio, physical, let's say some data sculptures or whatever. And yeah, so the mind map a little bit simplified. So on the left side, you see here this input. On the right side, you see the output. And for this example shows how user interaction can be transformed into sound, or image archives can be transformed into interactive installations, or text can be transformed into furniture, or let's say user interaction into sculptures. So there are so many nice possibilities here we can use, and that's why I and Patrick, we both are 100% creative coders today, because we believe that this way of thinking, this model, has so many opportunities, well, infinite opportunities anyway, right? So you can do anything with it. And that's why we decided to commit ourselves 100% into this direction, because creative coding is the most powerful thing I've discovered in the last year, in a media creation way, from perspective of being a creative artist or designer, whatever, right? So creative coding gives you all the possibilities from this input-output mind map, and that's why Patrick and we both decided to do that. And by the way, this is a very powerful combination, because we both meet about twice a week and go to eat something or drink something. And so this is a very intense friendship today. It's all about creative coding, or the most part of it about creative coding, but it's very interesting because we both inspire each other, right? Patrick has, well, very interesting points of view about that stuff, and I hopefully have some too. So this is a very, very interesting friendship and a very powerful combination of two persons who are quite different, but who inspire each other anyway. So this is a little overview of projects I've made. Mostly, most of the projects are self-commissioned, so I just tried stuff out, lots of systems, lots of 3D and two-dimensional stuff, data visualizations, web applications, some, also some projects that have been really realized, this one, for example, or the one before, but that was kind of the beginning, before the first projects I just realized. Yeah. So, now let me quickly get something to drink. I forgot to get some water here, and I really need some water to speak. So give me half a minute, okay? I'm back in just a few moments.
Okay. عايز مش سامعني. عايز مش سامع. طيب هو راح يشرب لما يرجع. هو انتوا عايزين تكييف يا جماعه؟ ازاي كده؟ يوم كده ازاي؟
All right, I'm back.
Okay, can you hear us, Tim?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so did you understand everything?
Yeah, mostly everything.
Okay, that's fine. So later on we can have some questions here, okay?
Okay.
All right, cool. So, I just, in the last years, I was also thinking, since I'm teaching, I was also thinking about, well, what is the philosophy behind creative coding, and what does it mean in a philosophical sense? Because, I don't want to teach my students to do something they don't know why they do it. And I think it's very important to think about that. This is kind of a mission statement. Let me try to find some own words for that without reading this text. So, so creative coding is a way to understand technologies and understand how things work. And they give us the power also to free from the big companies like Google or Facebook or whatever. We can create our own tools to free ourselves, right? That's something that really motivates me, because I like the thought of, or the idea of, creating own design applications, for example, without paying 60 euros per month to Adobe, which is a huge amount of money. I don't like to be, I try to free myself from these big companies. That's one of the things why I really like creative coding. The possibility to build own tools without being, being forced to use tools that other people tend to use. Also, I think it's very, very important for these young people to learn how to create interactive media, because it's one of the most important fields in the creative industries at the moment. People since by the way, I have my own little business, I don't live off creative coding. Well, I get a little bit of money for teaching, but the most of my money I learn, or I make my living from making websites. I'm a WordPress expert with a design background, so I have a very special target group, like design agencies who have very strict and visual concepts, and they want me to create the websites for them. And I just go to show you the website of this business. It's called Der digitale Raum in German, which means the digital space, or something like the digital universe, but not so pathetic. So yeah, and yeah, so I was just I just lost the the track here. Okay, I think I'm back. Okay, cool. So this is the circle of competence that I always change a bit, but I always use this model of thinking to keep myself on track and to to don't do things that have nothing to do with my aims and my targets, the things I want to achieve. Because it's very easy to get lost in technologies. Maybe you guys I'm talking about. There's so many interesting things like Node.js, JavaScript.
Tim, can you hear me?
Design, whatever, right? There are so many things. And for me, the circle of competence, because I try to find words for those things that really interest me and that really bring me to the place where I want to be. I want to go on with teaching. One day I want to make my whole living from teaching. That's what I'm aiming to do in the future. I don't have any stress with that. I just enjoy my life at the moment very much. And yeah, but that's what I want to do in the future. So processing P5.js are my technologies. Graphic design are the themes that I'm focusing on. Exploration and teaching are the things I'm doing with all these technologies and these disciplines. And teaching. So why do I teach? What motivates me to teach? Well, I think programming is one of the most valuable skills in the world. When you are able to write software, I can guarantee, well, I cannot guarantee anyone something, but it is very easy to get a good job. If you're a good programmer, it's easy to get a well-paid job. That's something that changed my life completely, because before I was a designer, then I started programming, and since then I make my whole living from being a programmer. That's awesome. Designers, there are so many designers out there. Everybody calls themselves a designer. It's very easy to buy the creative suite, get the tools you need to make nice flyers and websites and whatever. Not websites, because websites you really need tools to create websites in a good way, and these tools are programming languages. And creative coding or programming enables creators to break the chains of the disciplines. So you can make connections between many different things, right? Between graphic design and technology. And that's something really cool about that. Yeah, creative coding equals new forms of art and expression. The visual worlds we create as creative coders have not been there yet. It's still possible to invent new forms of design, new forms of visuality in the creative coding world. So it enables you to create anything from 2D to 3D to 4D, whatever, virtual reality, augmented reality. So we really can invent things with creative coding. And also from a philosophical point of view, we need to challenge and question new technologies. I mean, is artificial intelligence something good? Is it bad? Is it dangerous, right? We have to create art that questions and we have to create art about that, because people have to understand what those technologies mean, also if they are good or bad. So that's why I think we need to make art about that and explain it from our point of view. Yeah. as already mentioned, I really like the idea of creating a new philosophy, how to deal with technologies and disruption, digitalization and stuff. So that's something that really drives me and really interests me, because this philosophy is what's going to influence the young people, the next generations of students and designers and artists, pretty much. So yeah, also open source, yeah, right? Open source is a wonderful, wonderful philosophy where people share everything they have and take everything they need. So why don't we take that ideal and put it into other well, why don't we take this idea and just transform it into politics and into social topics and stuff? And that's something also that drives me pretty much. It started out with a TEDx talk I gave in 2017. That was something like the initial point when I started teaching. TEDx Uni Paderborn, which is in Paderborn, in the city where I live. So I talked about creative coding. And by the way, you can just watch this talk on YouTube if you like. If you Google for my name, I think it's one of the first results you get. And well, in the meantime, I just talked at a few conferences. This, for example, is the Dutch Design Week in the Netherlands. And that was a really great experience. I've been there with Patrick. We both gave our talks. That was awesome. And these are my first students from Camp Lindfort, my first class. Now I have my second class at the moment, but these are my first students. And I make YouTube tutorials because I think it's very interesting and very helpful for young people to have something like a tutor that who not just guides them in a technological way, but also in a aesthetic and design, from a design perspective. So yeah, this is my current class. I've got 50 students. That's huge. There's so many guys, so many people, so many women and men who want to learn that. And I really enjoy that. And I love all of these people. Yeah. So this is basically what my talk was, what Mohammed just told you guys, what this talk is about. I was just talking a lot about my personal life because I think it's very, very interesting and very important. But this is the most recent project I've realized, and it has been really changing the way I work today with processing and P5.js. So in the beginning of this project, I utilized a creativity technique that I call the magic triangle. And magic triangle is a technique that enables you to create hundreds of designs in a very short time. Right? So it's about or inventing restrictions that build something like a frame around your project, and that literally build borders around this idea. So that means in the middle you can see there's the project framework. In the middle of the triangle there are all the ideas. They are framed by 3 parameters. The first parameter says create posters. The second parameter says on the right side use 2 colors, right? So use a blue and a white. And the third parameter on the bottom says use processing. So that was the initial creativity framework I used to create this project called Programming Posters. And yeah, this, by the way, is a nice blue color. It was very difficult to stay all the time in this color space because yeah, this is a very inconvenient way of working, but at the same time, okay, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Just first, let me show you quickly this video here. I'm not really sure if you can hear the sound of music, but yeah. So that's programming posters, and the story behind that project is interesting. I think I think I wanted to provocate all these print-oriented professors and print-oriented people in the universities a little bit, and not really provocate in a negative sense, but show them that programming is a very important technique for the future, also for printed media, right? So it's very important to understand programming if you want to talk about the evolution of media. And yeah, I wanted to find new ways of extending the very traditional medium of the printed poster. And yeah, this is kind of the timeline, how the poster is evolved in the last years and will evolve in the future. So in 2001, we had the printed posters, right? So, and also, of course, before, posters were all the time printed. Everything was on paper, right? Color, paper, images, typography, but that was a poster. A medium for the public space, for communication in public space. So,
Tim, may I ask you, like, would you like to have questions in between, or like leave questions by then?
Yeah, we can make some, of course.
Yes, because like this is like I have a question here for this idea, like you said, like printed, animated, and interactive. Many people like ask me like why not use like traditional softwares like Illustrator and Photoshop since it's already printed. So why it makes difference to use something like creative coding? The other, especially for printed and for animated ones. So if you can like tell them more from your perspective based on your practice, why you see like in comparison, because is it better to use it with coding and processing, or it is something different?
No, it's not better. It's different. It's just about. Just let me quickly adjust this light. I know this is a little bit dark, but it blends me a bit. Yeah, it is. It is not better, of course not. It is just a new way of approaching poster design, right? So I'm not trying to. Well, it's not about saying that InDesign is not a good tool for creating posters. Of course, it's a much better tool for creating posters than processing. But it's just something that tries to question how we create posters, how we create media, and which kind of possibilities come with creating posters with new technologies like processing or P5JS or whatever, or 3D software or what, right? So when you approach experiments with those technologies and start to create your own experiments with that, you will find interesting spots which have not been discovered yet, right? So if you do something in a new way that has not been done that way before, then you will find interesting little pieces of creative output that have not been made yet, right? So that's just one little detail about that. There's one much better argument here. Whoa, where is my keynote here? So with Adobe software, we can create printed posters and animated posters. So we can do the posters that are static and animated, but we cannot do interactive posters because the poster of the future is going to react to our data, to our motion, to the video signal, to social media, to whatever, right? And that's where programming comes into the play, because you cannot use a software that's created by Adobe yet, maybe in 10 years or something, but yet there's no software that enables you to create very creative, interactive applications that act as a poster in a public space. So I think that's a very good answer for that question, because the poster of the future, right? And also of the present, because there are already interactive posters out there. Can it be built with InDesign?
The idea here as well, is it like for interactive posters, is it like when you see it, like is it you believe like beside this, for the message itself, that the poster translates, like that maybe when you do like a traditional poster to send a message, get a message with Adobe softwares, whatever, but when you start to do like some kind of generative work with using posters, whether it's animated, static, or interactive, you think like it translates the message better, or it is the same despite of the technology?
Is a question?
Yeah, the idea of the message, is it like translates the message better or not? Like using like generative design in this context of posters.
Yeah, and there's one more thing about that. An interactive poster has to be created once, right? So InDesign is a tool you can use to create one poster. If you want to have hundreds of different posters from a data source like a content management system or something, then it's really a lot of work to put all these names on the poster, all these texts and images, and design it in a nice way. So with processing, you can create something like a visual system, a very, very very simple visual system that has a few rules in it, and which places all the information onto the poster automatically, and then you can export PDF files from processing. So there are use cases where processing is a much better tool for poster design than InDesign, right? So that's really interesting, because design automation is also a very important topic at the moment. People are thinking about automating design processes, and well, processing can definitely be used to do that. And there are already some very good examples out there that prove that this is possible. So yeah. So as you can see, there's one tool, for example.
Yeah, I got it. I got your point. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Like, sorry, I interrupted your presentation.
No, you didn't. It's super cool to talk to you about that, with you about that, because I sometimes, I don't know what. It's really nice to see what you think about that. So it's really good. If you please ask me anything if you want to know something. Okay.
Okay. No.
So here are some mockups. I just put Photoshop to put some mockups here. Interestingly, just a quick tip: if you want to make some poster designs, always use mockups, because that's how people understand how that stuff will look in the real world. And yeah, I think mockups are a very powerful way to communicate how a design concept would look like in the real world. Yeah, so interestingly, since I make programming posters, my followers on Instagram were pretty much raising. I don't give that much about that, but I think it's very interesting to reach a few people and share the work and discuss the work with people out there. And yeah, Instagram is for me the channel where I connect with people who also enjoy making design and thinking about technologies and stuff. So that's a really nice channel to do that. And yeah, there was a press feature in the Page magazine, which is the most important magazine in Germany for the creative industries. And they featured my project on 6 pages, which was really mind-blowing, because I was always reading this magazine, and then they just contacted me and asked me if they could write an article about that. So that was really interesting. But it proves that industries are really caring about that, right? They really want to know, what is it? How can we use it? What can we do with it? So yeah, that was a really nice moment when I had this information that I'm going to be featured on this magazine. And well, there's also an application that I've created.
Like, but the one the mock-up in the magazine, is it like was the real one you printed and you exhibited on public spaces?
What do you mean? Sorry, the magazine?
Yeah, inside the magazine there was this photo for one of your projects. The posters on the public space. Is it like another mock-up, or it is like a real one?
In public, well, you mean, I think you mean these, right?
No. Like, if you can move forward, there is.
Yeah. This one.
Yes.
This is a mock-up. This is not real, right? So I just used Photoshop for that, right? Yeah, that's a good way to show people how things look in the real world. So that's why I use these mock-ups. I'm pretty sure without mock-ups I wouldn't get this feature in this magazine, because yeah, it's really interesting. It's a very interesting psychological effect. If you put your works, you can describe them with text, but nobody's going to read that text, right? You have to put them into a real context, then they understand it.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is something like a continuation of this project. I just developed a web application to, my aim was to develop a web application where you can create posters with, which can be rendered and saved as high-resolution images for printing. So I wanted to prove that it's possible to use a website and create a design tool from a website that enables you to render high-resolution posters that can be printed. So because I think that was something the design people didn't really know, that this is possible. So yeah, and these play buttons and the person on the right bottom there, that's me. This is just I just have a video. I've just made a video tutorial about resources, and yeah, that's where I just mentioned this project. That's a screenshot from the video. Yeah.
Available online, we can use it? Or
you can use it, yeah. You can go to my website and then to projects. It's not on the first site, but if you just go to the projects, and then you can use it in the browser and create your own little posters there, and then download them. So feel free to use it for anything. If you want to, well, make a poster for the next party or something, then you can use this tool.
Is it like an interface you made it like with Control P5, something like this, over processing or something?
Yeah, this is P5.js on the right side, but I created some HTML input sliders and text fields and something, and just yeah, just that was a lot of work. And I just took a lot of photographies from the Museum of Modern Art in New York, which is a huge archive of photographies from art pieces from the past. So yeah.
Okay, like super cool. Let me tell them about this. Like الجروب دي مش عارف انتوا خدتوا بالكم هو بيقولوا فالتول دي يعني ممكن تستخدموها. يعني هي بتساعدك ان انت تعمل جنريتيف بوسترز. هو بيستخدم بروسيسنج، بس مثلا ما انت تاخد الافورت كلها بتاعت ان انت تبني تول من اول وجديد وتعمل الكودينج، هو اوريدي عمل حاجه زي دي تول اونلاين. فبالنسبه لك انت كديزاينر، انت كاسهل ان انت لو عايز تاكسس بشكل سريع عشان تكسبلور وتكسبيرمنت وتطلع شويه بروجكتس باي كواليتي، تقدر تستخدم التول بتاعتك.
والليميتيشن بتاعها ان انت مثلا غير تكست، ولا ان مثلا ممكن العب في باك جراوند او اعمل كده ولا
ممكن اساله. So somebody was asking, Asim here was asking about what are the limitations of this software, like the interface, the tool.
Oops. Let me quickly, yeah, I just switch back to my, hello. The limitation of the software, well, the limitations are very strict. I have a predefined set of images. I have a predefined set of fonts, but you can write your own text in it. But in theory, you can create very powerful applications from that approach. I didn't try to make something like a universal poster design tool. I more tried to make something like a proof of concept that people can understand that this is working, right? So yeah, that's why I didn't, I could spend hours and days and months and years developing that software till a state till a professional state, but that's not what I was aiming. I just wanted to create something that people can see that it works, right? Yeah.
But I think it is more like what you said, like proof of concept, but at the same time, it is something to experiment, like open up the space for experimentation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it was also not clear if this works. So I just tried to prove that this is going to work, and yeah, it worked.
Okay. Yes, fine.
So get back to the presentation. Cool. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about tools, processing. So how many people are in your room? How many people are there? 10, 15? Can you hear me?
15 years, about 15 years.
How many? 15?
Yeah, about 15, yeah, 15.
Great. Okay. Have all you worked with processing? How many of you guys have been working with processing yet?
Like 3, 4?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What are the majority of you guys? What are you doing in the well, what kind of coding work do you do?
Coding, like, what kind of coding you understand creative coding? في
I use processing for big animation, like balls move around the screen.
Yes. Well, Mohammed Abdelhamid, he's working with processing. He played with it for a while, processing and 4V as a visual programming. And yes, some other people here, Abir and Sra, they played for a while, like tried playing with processing as well. Ahmed actually is doing very interesting.
I use Sonic Pi to create music. It's kind of like reading music. You that like the music you used to play. It's like you are DJing in front of audience using coding. It's made by a professor in Cambridge called Sam Aaron. That Sonic Pi. Also, I use Canvas Sketch for something based on JavaScript. I mainly use ECMAScript. And I used to somehow, for a little while, I use P5.js.
Nice. Yeah, P5.js is also great, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, like Steve is working with P5.js. And it's really interesting too.
But I have created most of my work. I generated using Canvas Sketch and Sonic Pi.
Nice, great. You're gonna show me that. I really want to. I really would like to learn to know you. That's the problem with being so far away from you, and I just see my own presentation. Next time, you should really get in touch in a very real way without. So then I have the opportunity, the chance to really get to know you guys. Yeah. Let me tell you a few thoughts about processing, because I've been thinking a lot about processing in P5.js, and it really broke my head because there are so many. It's very hard to say which technology of both is good for what I wanted to do, because in the way I just tried everything. I tried to work with P5.js on the programming process project. It didn't work until a specific moment when I tried to export videos, which is, by the way, one of the most difficult restrictions from P5.js for me personally, because I want to always export videos, and that's not really convenient and easy with P5.js. So that's why I use processing. And also because processing is based on Java, and I think it is very good to know a real programming language. That's what I'm now learning. I'm now learning Java and how processing is built. And I now use IntelliJ IDEA, which is also a text editor where you can write code in. And it's made for Java, and now I really try to learn these very fundamentals of programming, because all the stuff is hidden from you in processing, but that's good for beginners, right? And also for intermediate creative coders. But one day you will feel like, okay, I want to make a library, or I want to scale my application, have different views and all that stuff. And then it really it's very handy to know how Java works, or JavaScript, of course, in terms of P5.js. So I wouldn't say that one of those both technologies is better. I would say that both have their well, reason, and both have their qualities. And at the moment, I feel like people are hyping P5.js pretty much, but processing is more upgrown. It is more, it's good to learn the basics of programming, and processing is forcing you to tell it which kind of variables you use, for example, color or float or int. That's something that JavaScript hides from you. And I like to see all the complexity and understand it to write better code. And yeah, that's something I want to be a very good Java programmer. And that's why I learned Java now. So, but that decision, until I made it, really needed years, because I was always switching from JavaScript to Java, from JavaScript to Java, and back again and back again and back again. And I was not really sure which technology I should really go into. But I've learned that it doesn't matter that much, because the most important thing is that you learn one. It's not really important that you which one you learn. It's important that you learn one that has all the features in it, like classes and object-oriented programming and stuff. So I go for Java now, and also, of course, I write JavaScript in my web application projects, but mostly in my creative coding work, I use Java. Also, well, processing, right? Also, because it's much easier to get started with the application for students, because the web editor of P5.js is nice, but I think the processing editor is really nice, because you just can start it. You can save the files directly to your folder, and it's everything on your computer. You don't work in a web browser, which is kind of crappy anyway, I think. And I really like the processing application because it teaches you all that important stuff. So
Tim, I believe like it is for starting points for students or for beginners to start with P5 or processing, because it's more mature. As you said, like I've been there for many years, and it's more better to get started with it instead of P5.js, right?
Well, that depends a little bit. If you are aiming to become a web developer, for example, if that's your aim, if you want to get a web developer, you should learn P5.js, I think, because that will confront you from the beginning directly with HTML and CSS and all these things that have to do with websites. But if you are more interested in making more physical stuff or in interactive installations, Arduino and stuff, then of course it makes much more sense to start off with processing, because processing, and also if you have more technical background, I would say maybe P5.js is more for designers, for graphic designers who might want to make something colorful, and processing is more for people who enjoy technical stuff.
That's amazing.
Right? So, but interestingly, both languages are so similar. So that means if you just learn processing, you will be able to switch over to P5.js very, very quickly, because the functionalities, all these syntax, everything is so similar. It's super easy to convert a simple processing sketch to P5.js. So that's cool, right? You can switch from Java to JavaScript in a very simple way. Oh, there's somebody ringing on my door, but I'm not going to go there now. I have a talk in Cairo now. Open source. I love the idea that processing is open source and can be downloaded for free. I love that it's free, because that's important. People all around the world, wherever they are, can download processing. That's great. Nobody has to pay for it. Everybody is the same. It's all about learning. The better you don't get judged about how much money you have. The main thing is that you are willing to learn a programming language, and that gives you all the power, right? That's something I really like about that. That people in Africa and in Asia, in the United States, in Europe, anywhere, everybody can use processing and download it. That's great, I think. So it's also very easy to learn, because you'll learn programming in a very visual and a very convenient way. Right? It's not about creating numbers, or it's not about just math and making calculations and getting a result like 36 or something. It's about making something emotional, something that you can interact with, something that is beautiful because it uses colors and shapes and all these nice things all people love. So I think this is a new way of art. This is a new form of art, and I'm really very optimistic that this is going to be one of the most important art forms in the next 100 years, because that's digitalization. Programming is the material and the tool which drives the digitalization, the technological revolution we are all living in. So creative coding is powerful. It's going to grow. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm very convinced about that. And now we can start off and we can be there from the beginning and shape the way it changes the world in a good way, right? So some very huge words here, but that's what I'm really convinced of. What I also really love about processing is that...
Can I ask you, Simon? Can I ask you, Tim? Like,
Yep.
this, for the idea of easy. Like many people here in this room believe that it is really hard to get into programming if they are an artist or a designer, or even a beginner who is like from outside the art world, who's just interested in this point. So, do you have something to say for them? Like, if they want to get started with this?
Yeah. Well, the thing is with processing is I think you need a short time where you can focus on it, right? So I told you about this week in this wooden cabin I spent with Patrick and another friend for 7 days or 5 days. Well, I think these were 7 days, and that was for me very important, because that was the moment when I had somebody who explained me the basic concepts of processing. This is a huge wall you have to jump over, and it's not super easy for someone who has no idea how programming works. But Daniel Schiffman, for example, and all these educators out there on YouTube make that step a lot easier, because they are explaining how processing works in a very educational but also in an entertaining way, which is special for this programming language. Because many other programming languages and technologies have very, very boring teachers. So yeah, I would say that if you want to learn processing, first of all, you should find why you want to learn it. If you know why you want to learn it and why it makes sense, and there's so many reasons why you should do it or why you can do it and it will affect your life in a positive way, then the motivation comes from itself. And then you just have to create stuff, right? I started with creating a Tumblr. I made a little blog where I made my GIF animations, and I made, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them a day, and just posted them on Tumblr. And then I had followers and people liking that stuff, sharing that stuff. That was really cool, right? I just put my stuff out there, even if it wasn't very complex, or maybe some some very good programmers would say, okay, this is not well done or something, but I had fun with that. And I had an outcome. I would say the best way to start with processing is creating a little Tumblr blog or something where you can put your work on the internet and start making GIF animations, start making short movies or poster designs or whatever, and share it with the world and see how people react, share it with the community. And again, this is a nice link to this slide here, because the community is a wonderful one. I've been working with a few different communities because I'm also a WordPress developer, and I think the most friendly community I've ever learned to know is the processing community. These guys are very helpful. These guys are very inspired and pretty much burning for that thing. Well, there is this Facebook group called Creative Coding with Programming PFFJS, which has about 10,000 people. where you can put your work in. People will comment there. People will tell you what they think. You can ask questions, and that's something very nice.
Yeah, maybe Tim, like many people here are not in the group like us. So can you like? Is it possible like you can open the group for them? It's a good chance to share with them like what's happening inside the group.
Yes.
Like, just a quick.
Yeah. Sure.
It's because like the idea here, what Tim trying to say that when like you can imagine like الجروب اللي احنا بتاع فيسبوك ده كل ناس from around the world even then يشوف من نفسه over this group. So everyone from the like you can't imagine how many work you can see from people doing from very small sketches to big projects, and everyone is sharing inside this group. So you can see like many people like you doing the same thing. So this is some kind of an inspiration for me. So
yeah, and these people are very nice, and I now after 4 years I met a lot of them, right? I just met them and in real life, and that's really, really cool, I think, because that is also where the Creative Coding Days came to life. And well, isn't it all about human? Isn't it all about friendship and finding people you love and like and you want to live and you know, spend time with? I found these people in this community. I found these people in the creative coding and processing community. So it is great to connect with these people, right? So it's great to make meetups and people again and making talks and stuff. So for me, the whole creative coding thing is also pretty much about the people I'm hanging around with, right?
Yes, I saw your screen is duplicated as done before, but I opened it for them right here. Like, but as you see, like if you have any question about any project you are thinking of, you will find people sharing their work over here. And as well, at the same time, if you're having any question, you will see dozens of comments from experts and guys working like in studios and everywhere around the world, like helping you with the resources. Like sometimes I ask people before the meetup about some resources, and it's very helpful actually.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's really nice. You know, it just fills my heart with joy because I feel like it's great to have people helping each other, right? It's great.
Yes. That's what Tim trying to say, that it's a very big community. If you open this group and you watch the how many people inside this group, you find about I don't know, like it's a very 8K, like more than 8,000 coming here. So you can see like people putting all their ideas, and it's more 8,000, and many of them are very active already.
Yes, absolutely. And there's also the Processing Forum, which is another community about processing, and there are also very, very thousands of people. I think these people are different people. I think there are two main channels where people communicate about processing and P5JS. One is this Facebook group, and the other one is the forum, the forum of processing, right? discourse.processing.org. And I don't know if there are more communities about processing. I'm not really sure, but I just go mostly for the Facebook group because I think they are the people I just met and I just connected with. Yeah. And this is one of the key descriptions of what processing is, because that's also something that's not really easy to understand. The initial idea of processing is to be a flexible software sketchbook and a language for learning how to code within the context of the visual arts. So processing is meant to be a sketchbook, something that enables you to create creative work in a very, very quick way, right? It's there for creativity, for quick sketches, but you can also create very complex applications with that. And that makes processing very powerful, but also it gives it a soul, right? It gives it a soul to be an artistic tool, and that's something I like, because programming, why should programming only be there to create applications and money and, you know, capitalism and whatever, right? This is a new material, just like clay or text or wood or whatever. This is a new material, the code. and we can write code with a tool called processing and create art with it. We have to understand that code is a new material inside of visual arts, and it's not really there yet. I think the people don't understand it yet, but one day, hopefully, creative coding will be one of the most important arts of the present, and I'm very convinced about that this is going to happen in the future, because we are living in the fourth industrial revolution, in the digitalization, and code and coding and programming is the tool and the motor of this whole revolution, right? So let's just wait a few years, and creative coding will be a very important art direction, right? So, and if not, then it's also not too bad, because I had a lot of fun. I don't want to be famous or something with that. Of course not. I just believe that this is very important. We have to create art with code, because we have to explain people what it is, how it works, how to question machine learning, how to do that stuff. So that's pretty much why I love processing. Dan Schiffman, he's great, right? I think all of you guys know Dan from his tutorials. I'm very inspired by him anyway. Yeah, I think sometimes he makes very kitschy videos. I'm not really a fan of his new visual style, because it's too colorful in my opinion, and too, but he just scaled his audience by 10 or something, so that's completely okay. This is his way of explaining how to code. But hopefully there will be more teachers out there in the future that explain processing in context of other, of different fields like hardware and VJing and graphic design and whatever, right? So I think we need more processing and P5JS teachers to tell us how to use that technology within the fields of specific art forms. That's also a tool that I use pretty much. It's called TouchOSC. It's something like you can use your tablet as a MIDI controller, and that's something I use to control my sketches. I'm very close to the end of my talk. Again, the magic triangle that I just mentioned in the programming posters project. By the way, sorry, my talk is a little bit badly structured. I see that this is here again, and I don't know if I really need to explain it one more time. So let's just skip that. No, let's not skip that, because there's something that I wanted to show you about that. Again, right, the magic triangle is something like a framework for a project idea. And believe me, all of you guys can use it to create own very creative and very interesting projects. It can be applied to anything. It can be applied to Arduino, to P5JS, to websites, to processing, whatever. And it is all about creating a framework with 3 parameters, right, that frame the project idea, right? So this is just a metaphor or an image that wants to explain a specific project idea. And here we've got these 3 borders, right? Again, in the programming posters project, I've been working with 3 restrictions. The first one was to create posters. The second one was to use 2 colors on the right side, right? Up there, there's a hex value for the blue, and down, and there's a white color. And at the bottom, there is the tool called processing. So we can use that to create very interesting project ideas. And it's very, very powerful if you stay in this framework, if you don't leave it, and you explore what's possible with your own project framework, your own magic triangle. And I'm thinking about making a course about that, because I think this could be interesting for anybody who wants to work with painting or with photography or drawing, computer, 3D graphics, whatever, right? So this magic triangle can be used in any art form. And what's cool about that, or what I learned from using that magic triangle, and by the way, programming posters is not the only and not the first project I'm working with the magic triangle, is that restrictions amplify creativity. If you restrict yourself to a very dense and very focused idea, you will get very, very creative. And restrictions amplify remarkability. That means your project results, what comes out of your project, will be remarkable because people will identify that project to, or the outcome of the project to be a result of a specific project idea, right? So that's very powerful, right? The magic triangle is something, if you want to create an art project, think about 3 parameters and put them into your own magic triangle. Yeah, so how would your magic triangle look like? Yeah, that's a very interesting question from me in your direction. So maybe all of you can think about that. If you would make a free project, an explorative project, how would it look like? Okay, this is a bit about Stoicism. Stoicism is a philosophy that has nothing to do with creative coding, but I use it every day. Stoicism helped me to to feel strong about learning to program, because in the beginning it was very overwhelming. I felt like, oh my goodness, I can't do that. And Stoicism, the philosophy of Stoicism, helped me to go step by step, to fight for my results, to try to understand everything and really go further until I'm reaching an end, which hopefully will never happen. And Stoicism is very powerful. If you're interested in that, just watch Tim Ferriss's talk called Define Your Fears Instead of Your Goals. I think that's the name of the talk.
So Tim, what is the word stoicism?
Stoicism is a philosophy from the ancient Rome, I think. It's very old. It's all about thinking about what you can change in the current point of time. It's pretty much about getting things done in your daily life without having fear of of losing or of not being successful. It's just about keep calm about what you do and just go on with it. That's what Stoicism is for me. So it's a very wide field. Stoicism is a huge philosophy. You can read a lot about Stoicism on the internet. So if you're interested in that, that really helps pretty much if you want to get your daily life done in a very productive way. Check that stuff out. It's really nice.
Can you say that? Like, so you mean it is more about the idea of...
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Can you say the philosophy again you said about before?
I just had a problem understanding the last sentence. Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, can you say the word again, the philosophy behind the word?
Stoicism.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Stoicism, right? Okay. So I'm very sorry for not understanding the question, but I mean, do you want me to spell Stoicism? No, not really.
No, I was just saying, like, can you repeat it again? Can you say it again?
Okay. Well, yes, Stoicism is a very powerful, this OS means, by the way, operating system. You know, every computer has an operating system, and Stoicism is an operating system for our brain. So it does not have anything to do with religion. So it's compatible with any religion in the world, and you can use it to get your stuff done every day. So if you are scared of being not successful or something, you know, Stoicism really helps you to divide the problems you have into problems you can solve and problems you cannot solve, and then to focus on solving the problems you can solve. And that is something that really helped me to understand how to learn to programming, because programming is so complex and very overwhelming in the beginning. But you have to go step by step, one after the other, right? One step and then the next step and then the next step. And that's the way how to do that. And Stoicism helped me to understand that in a way. And these guys are Stoics from the very past. And these you can read a lot about them on Wikipedia, for example. Right? Did you understand that?
Yeah, we got your point. Yeah, okay, great.
So this is not about creative coding, but you know, I'm really trying to talk about my whole life, and this stuff is really influencing me pretty much. So that's why I'm just mentioning it here. This is one of the most important Stoic quotes from Seneca. He said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. So if you think you cannot learn programming, I can tell you, you can. You just have to, commit yourself for that. You just have to say, okay, I'm going to do that every day, 5 minutes. Maybe in 1 or 2 months, you just upgrade to 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour, as long as you like. But if you go for it and just do it every day a little bit, you will understand everything very, very quickly, I think. So, yeah. The Creative Coding Days, Mohamed, you've been talking about them. This is the first group of the Creative Coding Days in 2015. We've been meeting in Nijmegen, which is in the Netherlands, and very, very flat. And this is a house of, we've been meeting in a house of Ria, which is in Nijmegen. It's not the house in the background, by the way, but Ria is the woman on the right. And she has a huge house, and now she hosts these Creative Coding Days in the Netherlands. By the way, Mohamed, there was one mistake. The Creative Coding Days are always in the Netherlands. They have been once in Paderborn, but that was not really good because we had bad weather and we tried to be a lot outside and stuff. So we mostly meet in Ria's house, which is in the Netherlands and on the countryside. And there she has so much space for, 20 people or something, and we've been there just a few weeks ago with 12 people. So it's growing a little bit every year, and all these people are from the creative coding community, from Facebook group.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So I just mixed it up, but the one that was in Paderborn, it was the one in 2017, right?
2016. We had the idea to make Creative Coding Days on the farm.
Yeah.
But that was a bad idea because, the farm that we scouted for that was they didn't have good possibilities to sit inside. They had no heating and everything. It was very cold. It was very rainy, and we had to wear very thick jackets and stuff. So, I know you in Cairo, you have very nice temperatures all the time. But in Germany, the weather is very cold sometimes. Also in the spring. At the moment, sometimes here it's about 5 degrees or 10 degrees.
Okay. So
very cold.
Is it Saskia's, the one standing in the back?
Yeah, that's Saskia Freke.
Exactly. Yeah, actually, when we started this Tuk series, like Saskia was the first one.
Ah, really? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, she's giving a lot of talks in the whole world, right? She was in Los Angeles and in London. She lives in London now. Yeah. And
very lovely stuff as well. Many stuff with P5 and P5 Jazz as well.
Yes, exactly. And the guy up on the left, right, with the blue jacket, that's Arash Saidi, who is now, well, he was, when in that time, he was just somebody who was coming from a different field and started to learn program, and now he has a huge company for machine learning. It's very, very successful. That's awesome. That guy is super calm and always very relaxed. And next to Arash, the guy from the left, the second with the gray jacket, that's Patrick again, right? Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick started with you from the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's true. So like you said, like you recently made another Creative Coding Days recently, right? Yeah,
we just recently made another Creative Coding Days, again in the house of Ria. Now we were 12 people, and it was awesome. It was really nice. She has this huge house, and we can use all the space for us. She's a total, she just gives us all the freedom. We can use her house for anything we want. And she's also a creative coder, and she teaches P5JS in Amsterdam. And yeah, so that's wonderful because it's really growing. And
yeah, it's very growing. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, it's really a great experience to have 1 week to commit yourself to maybe an application you want to build, but you never had the time to start with it, right? So it's always nice to start with, to do something, to create a project that you wanted to do all the time, but you didn't find the time for it, or not. You didn't have the focus for it, and that's something I really love about that, right? So that's wonderful. Yeah. So all you guys, you're all invited. Come next year to the Creative Coding Days. I think they will take place again in Ria's house. And yeah, all of you guys can come if you want, if you can.
Feel free to come next time. Like Ria is inviting you to her house. Is it near from Utrecht?
No, not really. She's Utrecht is about 100 kilometers far away. But she's the Netherlands is a very small country, right? And it can be very quickly in Utrecht, and it's just flat. The Netherlands are very flat. It's a very strange country. It's a very strange country. But I like it, and I like the people there, and yeah. So so there was something I've made for promoting the Creative Coding Days, some weird posters with colors and stuff, and I posted that stuff on Instagram, and the people perceived this event to be a real festival, which was, of course, not my intention. I didn't want to let it look like a huge festival, but I've been getting so many applications for that, about 30. That was really surprising. And of course, we couldn't host all of these people because Ria's house is not large enough for all of these. But we are thinking about scaling the Creative Coding Days one day to something more people can take place, and where we can have a stage with talks and people talking about their work and talking about their perspectives and learn, and hackathons and all that stuff. So
tell us more about it. That's what do you do during the Creative Coding Days? So this is something like that could inspire us here. Like we could do like something like here at Creative Coding Cairo. Is it like a project based? We gather all together to start working on a certain project, or it is more like everyone start to do his own practice, or how it works?
Yeah, it's more like everybody's doing something in his own way, mostly. Because I think this is important, because all of the people that came there were interested in something, and we were thinking about giving the whole thing a topic. But I think it's not good, because people have to be free in the decision what they want to focus on, what they want to explore, what they want to create, and what is interesting for them, right? So. I like that idea, but also it's a nice possibility to then exchange, because people then can talk about their projects and get input from other people, right? Yeah, so I really like this idea of leaving it free anyway, leaving it free so everybody can do what he or she wants to do.
Okay, cool.
By the way, it's kind of the same thing that you do in Creative Coding Cairo, right? So you are a group of people who meet on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's great. Okay. Okay. This is also one of the.
We have actually a big problem here in the Creative Coding Cairo, that people fear from coding, especially designers and artists. So. They feel fear like that we are not like we didn't study computer science, like we are afraid of exploring. Like for us or for someone like me, I have a background in visual arts, but I started exploring using tutorials, self-studies, and books. So I wanted to get deeper into learning coding or creative coding to get to this. But people here are still afraid of taking this step on their own, and taking it forward to get like more practice in that way.
Yeah, but I think what you can do then is do two things. First of all, you can, for example, make an exhibition about creative coding mixed with Egyptian culture. Let's say, you have the tradition in very geometric art, right? Isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So why don't you make something like an exhibition where all you guys work on, where you just show that coding can create patterns and things that are anyway related to Egyptian culture, for example. What you also should then do, you should tell the people why this is interesting, because they can enhance their careers inside of making some nice visuals. That's something I like about that, because you can use creative coding to create nice works, but also enhance your career, right?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, this is a good idea. Yeah, we can do something like this.
I mean, you are in Cairo, you are in the center of Egypt, and you are creative coding Cairo. That means you are. I mean, that's great, isn't it? I mean, you are the people in Cairo who practice creative coding. So why don't you make an exhibition about that? That would be awesome. Why don't you talk about that? Write a book or a website where you showcase the intersection of Egyptian culture and creative coding.
That could make sense.
I mean,
يلا معاك الجرين فلاج. Okay, that would be a great idea.
Volunteering for the idea.
Like somebody here volunteered to help in organizing this.
let's make a short experiment, okay? Let's go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and let's search for Egypt. Okay? Look at this great stuff here. I mean, this is your culture, right? This is your culture. By the way, Germans don't have that kind of culture that you have. And I'm a little bit jealous about that because it's very, very difficult. Germans don't have a culture, right? They don't have that kind of deep history that you have. That's wonderful. That's great. That's really amazing. And why don't you think about how this culture could be interpreted in a very modern way, in a creative coding way, in a digital way, in a way that people from all around the world will be interested in, right? So this is the moment for you to do something like that, I think, because yeah, that would be awesome. Please do that.
Yes,
we will do this definitely.
Yes.
So inspiration.
Yeah.
I really would like to be something like a mentor, if you like, so we can talk about that stuff.
Yeah, we can do this. Yeah, we can think of
We can
something.
make a bi-weekly meeting
Yeah.
with him so that we can pull something together.
Can you hear it?
I can lead that, yes.
Can you hear it? Can you?
Yeah, I can. The person is a little bit not loud enough, but I can hear you more. So I'm sorry.
Here is going to say, just raise your voice. Yeah.
One day I come around and then we talk about that project. Would love to do that. Really, I would love to see that.
Yeah. So basically, we're thinking of, since you volunteered to be our mentor, I can gather here and volunteer to run the event or this. But we would need a guidance how this would be handled on ground. So we can have me and Hussam and the team a bi-weekly call to update you on these are the people, how do you want to go, and so on. Would that be okay?
I understood that, it's clear, but I didn't understand the question exactly. Can you please repeat it? I can hear you very well, but I didn't understand the question from a meaning here. So
yeah, she was telling me if you are interested, and you would
mentor.
Yeah.
How would you like to mentor us? How would you?
Well, we can meet once a month or something in Skype, and we can talk about that because maybe we can do that together.
Doing some kind of experimentations and doing something. Gather together, and you can help us with how we can guide them to work on this.
To take it to the exhibition.
Yeah, so we can do some kind of, let's say, posters or what's generated posters or somewhere in an exhibition or a gallery, something like this. But she was asking about if we can handle this. Are you interested in this?
I am, absolutely. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Really cool. So let's create a trial for you guys.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. We can think of it after the meetup. Yes.
Yeah.
Your triangle will look like this. Okay, let me quickly wrap this up for you. So Egyptian culture, processing, and let's say, what will we do of that? Posters. Okay. So of course, now you see the problem with the magic triangle, because if you want to have more parameters, we need more parameters here. It won't work. It's just a metaphor, right? But you know, you could say something like, why don't you take an image from the Metropolitan Museum of New York and recreate it in processing, for example. Try to understand these patterns. And if you just created the software, you can create something completely different out of that, 3D objects that can be printed. The important thing is that you, and Mohamed, maybe you can write a concept for that or something, but the important thing is that you really try to keep, or you really focus on the input. Again, here's the input-output model, right? You can use Egyptian culture, the pyramids of Gizeh, and the architecture of the pyramids, for example, and teach processing how it works and create new artworks out of that. And then you can tell a story about these artworks, that they are inspired by the pyramids of Gizeh, right? So that is the way I would approach it. I would try to understand what kind of patterns and what kind of simple geometric patterns are in Egyptian culture, anyway, for example, and how can you, how can you make art with that? How can you teach?
How we can inspire from this? You know what I mean?
Sorry?
How we can inspire from this?
For example, from the Metropolitan Museum of New York here. This is a very good site about that, and also about you just go to Wikipedia, Egyptian art. I have no idea about Egyptian art, but I think, well, of course, these are Tutankhamun and these very, very ancient Egyptian artworks. But let me just see if there's something that looks generative, right? So
yeah, we can have the Islamic pattern. The Islamic pattern is a very part of our culture, and it's based on rules and patterns.
So
you can write it on Wikipedia.
Islamic patterns are especially more general, right? Because they are more not just Egyptian, but also for the whole Islamic world. By the way, I love these patterns. It's one of the most beautiful geometric compositions I've ever seen. I love the Islamic patterns. I love the Islamic art. For example, here is good for Islamic patterns or something. You find, let me see. So by the way, all these images are free to use, right? You can use the most of them free for your artworks. You can remix them. You can create your own art with these artworks, because they are so old that and there's nobody who owns the rights about them, right? So that's a very nice website. You can really get anything here. For example, this one, right? This is super beautiful. I see something that looks a bit like processing here. Why don't we recreate it and then in 2D and then bring it into 3D or something, right? That would be really, really inspiring.
Yeah, actually, like I got your point, because you are looking for things which could be a masterpiece. So the Metropolitan Museum is a good inspiration for resources, but as well, there is many other resources as well for.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to walk around Cairo and make photos. That's also a very good inspiration, right? So you've got all that stuff in front of you, and make creative coding and mix it with Egyptian culture, and then you tell a story about that, right? You tell a story about that. You use Egyptian culture and put it into something, into a new shape. That would be so cool, because it would shape an identity for you guys, right? It would give you a voice in the creative coding community.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
My goodness, I'm super inspired at the moment. It's really perfect. Damn it. Yeah.
Okay, we are as well super inspired. We'll think of this, and we'll let you know what we come up with.
Nice. Okay, let me just finish this, okay? I think this is not really a lot anymore. I just want to show you what I'm working on at the moment, okay?
Okay.
Crazy Cool Developers is another community for web developers I founded 4 years or 3 years ago. There are many people asking questions about web development, and you get great answers by great people. Sometimes I connect the P5JS and processing group with them, and it's really nice to see that I already met a few of these guys in real life, so that's a really nice community here. We've got a website with a few interviews of developers, so just go to crazycooldevelopers.com. Honestly, there I've learned so many techniques how to create nice websites. That's awesome. By interviewing great developers by myself, right? So yeah, I mix it sometimes a little bit with generative art. So Vera van der Sijp is one of the, she's a really, really great creative developer, a creative coder, and she's super young. She's working with machine learning, and it's really crazy what kind of stuff she's doing. And yeah, so yeah, just go to that website, crazycooldevelopers.com, if you are interested in creative web development. And this is something I'm at the moment working on. I just putting data about my life into a database with WordPress, and then I visualize that data with processing. So this is my life as a three-dimensional system made with processing, so I can move my mouse around and navigate through time, right? So that's something I'm working on at the moment. And yeah, so on the right side, there are more chronicle informations, like things that are relevant for politics and stuff. And on the left side, there are my personal things that I've experienced in my life. So, for example, when I started to study, or you know, make tutorship, or some images from a trip to whatever country. So and concerts of my band, of course. So yeah, this is something I'm working on at the moment.
You consider it as a data visualization more, right?
Yeah, it's a data visualization, but in a very experiential way. So you can experience time with that, right? So
okay.
Yeah, and I'm working with WordPress, and I'm trying to connect WordPress with processing. That's what I'm pretty much interested in at the moment. That's it. Does that mean danke? Thank you? I hope this is right. I'm not really sure if this is the right. I just copied it from Google. So that means thank you, right?
Yeah.
Can you spell it for me? What does it? How to spell that?
Shukran.
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 Shukran. Nice.
Yeah. When you say like shukran, like it's like thank you, but when you reply, you say welcome. Like in Arabic, you say al-afu.
Ah, nice. Okay, good to know. Thanks.
You said shukran, so we say al-afu.
Uh-huh. Great. Yeah, it was great to talk to you guys. I would really love to meet you once, and maybe we can meet in Cairo once. I would love to come. And then we talk about your great exhibition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions? Can I? What are you thinking? What didn't you understand anything? Is there something that you want to well, have repeated anyway?
In your learning journey, thank you for the talk. And in your learning journey, is the in learning, for example, arrays in JavaScript, and learning this stuff, the basics, how do you refer it to your thought, or the project you want to يعني ازاي ان التعليم ان انا اتعلم موضوع معين وان انا اطبقه. ايوه.
So JavaScript, what do you mean exactly? If I use them, or how important they are, or what exactly do you mean?
The shifting from the studying stuff to making your own stuff.
Ah.
He's trying to make how to make your own technique, style, or concept. So shifting from just learning tutorials to getting into doing your own work or technique, style.
Yeah, let me show you something, okay? Let me show you something. Let's open processing. Where's processing? Somebody told me never to code live, but I'm just trying out if that works anyway. So maybe I have luck and I don't get lost. So void setup, void draw. So let's make something nice. Let's say we've got something like a size 500 times 500. Let's say the background is, well, no stroke first of all. So, and then ellipse. Let's say mouse X, mouse X, mouse Y, comma, 20, 20, no, let's say 50 and 50. And fill is white. And the background is red. Let's run it. So, this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever written. Because it's super easy, right? You don't have to know arrays when you start with processing. And you can start with something like that, with something very, very simple, and just go on and integrate one technique that you learned and then the next one. But start with something like that. Start with something very simple. This is really easy to code, right? So you can learn that in half a day or 2 hours or 1 hour or whatever, right? You can learn all these commands here in processing very quickly. But it's very important that you guys understand, or I think it's very important, that this is already very beautiful. You don't need to use arrays, or you don't need to use classes or objects or whatever. You can start and kick off your processing work today without knowing anything. So, and then you start integrating one thing that interests you after the other. And then everything will be nice and great, and you will make nice visuals, right? Is that what your question was about?
Yes, about using the basics to do something, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But how you think, like, what could help him to do something on his own way? Like, you mean, from what you said, I believe it is more the triangle, the creative triangle you said. There is something else you would like to add to him that could help him when he learned the basics, the basic tutorials to shift to working with.
Okay, you mean more in a creative way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say, well, it's hardest thing to find out what you think you want to do and what's your personal interest, right? So it's not really easy, but why don't you start making a GIF? A GIF is an animation that can be uploaded to Tumblr. That's how I started, right? Let's just see my very first sketches, okay? Coding.tumblr.com. So this is the Tumblr I started creating or posting my stuff on. And I just go back to page 66, which is this is how I started. This is my first processing GIF I've made on the 16th August 2015, right? So this was kind of addictive because it felt like I can animate lines and I can animate circles and things are, look at this, that was, it's just a very, very little bit of code and you can learn how this works in just a few hours. So don't expect too much from yourself. Just start and enjoy what you do, right? Enjoy coding visuals, simply enjoy the nice mathematic aesthetics that are happening here. And try to connect with people that are also enjoying that stuff. And then you will kind of, burn up a fire inside yourself, which says, I want to learn this. I want to really understand how this works. And yeah, so that's how I would start if I would have to start with processing again. I would just start with making GIF animations. Right? Still there?
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Great. Look at this. So colorful, right? I just reduced all the colors in my work. So yeah, so that stuff was really happening when I started with creative coding. Yeah. Cool. Are you still there? I can't hear anything.
Yes, we are here.
Okay, nice.
Okay. So.
Any more questions?
So.
Okay.
Ahmed, yes. Ahmed.
First presentation you show us text. You make it furniture. I don't understand that.
Which one?
The input and output slide when you
okay. Yes. You mean the input output pattern? You want me to explain it again? Is that true? So.
Can be a furniture
Text furniture.
Yeah.
Next slide.
You mean this mind map? Is that what you want? I just don't hear you anymore anyway. I don't know. It's very... I can't hear anything there. Hello? Mohammed, are you still there?
Yes. Actually, like he was asking about the slide where the text turned into furniture.
Okay, cool. So you want me to explain it again?
Yeah, he didn't
explain that again?
Yeah, he didn't understand it. Can you repeat it? No. He didn't get the point of text and furniture.
Okay. Well, yes. It's all about the input and the output. So you can transform, well, basically this input-output pattern means nothing else than that you can transform text to furniture, right? You can transform a book into a chair with processing. Of course, it's very abstract, but basically it works in theory. You can use your favorite book and put the data into processing and create a 3D model in processing, which can be printed as a chair, for example, right? So this is just an example of how generative design works. There are lots of more input and output possibilities here. By the way, I have not that much time left, and I think I have to leave very soon. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, great. I think there's a very long delay. When I say something, it really comes to Cairo very slow.
Yeah, I guess like it's not a delay, but we are trying to close the mic because, you know, when we speak any voice, you switch the screen so we can see your presentation.
Okay, I get it.
So when nobody's asking anything, we try to close the mic so we can see your presentation.
Okay, nice. All right, I really enjoyed to speak to you guys. It was a pleasure, and I would love to see you once in real life.
Yeah, one day. Thank you, team, so much. Like, I have a last question before you go about like people who are, you know, here. It's still creative coding is something like initially started a couple of years, and nobody is it's not into the industry anyway. So especially since you are into graphic design. So what do you think? Like, graphic design is here in the traditional form, which is with the Adobe softwares. So what do you think? Like, I'm asking, like, how do you think, like, what you could tell to people over here, like, how to combine the traditional with the creative coding to in their like studio work or graphic work, whatever, something like posters, printing stuff, or something digital.
Well, I would say that it's just important to start something. It's just important to start creating work. And if you are interested in graphic design, and creative coding, then it's cool just to start and kick off your own project and start to experiment and explore what's possible in that intersection. By using processing as a designer, for example, you already have started combining both disciplines. No? And that's how I do it. That's how I just approach it. Just start something. Don't think too much about how it works and if the outcome will be nice or not. Just do it. And this is, of course, not just true for programming. If you are interested in 3D art or in something completely different, just go for it and follow that path. Then you will automatically integrated into your life and also into your professional life. And if you are a graphic designer, you will anyway, you will start integrating processing into your life anyway, right? Just keep on doing the things and just keep on moving on the track. And then in the end, you guys will, you guys will integrate processing into your life. That's something interesting, right? I integrated processing and creative coding into my life. Creative coding is now a part of my life. And yeah, that's a huge step, but it's a very nice step because it really helps if you don't think about processing or creative coding as something you do. Why don't you think about it as something you live in a way, right? So that's how I try to do it.
All right. That's
right.
Yes, great. It's great to know, like, living with creative coding.
Yeah, exactly. More or less. Cool. All right.
Cool. So that's what's great. Thank you, Tim, for joining us. I'm here, like, I'm over here.
It was awesome. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you once. And yeah, all the best, and all the best to Cairo. See you soon.
Thank you, Tim, so much. And I would like to ask you for the last question to take a photo with you. If you can close the shared screen and can take a photo, selfie or something like this.
Sorry, you want me to close the Bildschirmfreigabe? Ah, okay.
Yeah. So we can take a photo with you before we go. I will close the mic now, so we can see you only on the screen. Okay. Hey, Tim, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I will close the mic right now, so you can see you only on the screen. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim, for your time.
All the best. We are going to talk about that exhibition soon, right?
Yes, of course.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.